Hey there everyone, Fradham here, and tonight we're going to take a look at Ubuntu 18.04 LTS server install, and also we're going to show how to quickly set up and install a LXD container. Probably something like Centos just to start with. So the nice thing about the server install, it's probably the fastest Linux install you'll ever do. There's no graphical environment, it's all text-based installation, which is very old school, but because of that, it's not going to install anything for X or for NVIDIA drivers or anything like that. So the install is actually quite fast to go from booting up from the ISO image to a full-blown running Linux system. So I'm going to go ahead and do a real basic system here. Just go with all the defaults, set up the Ethernet so it's just bridged, no proxy server. Use the entire disk. Of course, you could partition the drive the way you want, but for this demo, I'm just going to let Ubuntu do the partitioning for me, which is just real basic, a grub partition and a root partition. So we're going to go ahead and continue with this. And just like all other Ubuntu installers, while I'm filling out the information about my server, it's downloading and installing stuff in the background. I really think that's great when installers don't wait for you to do stuff and they just get going and install things as needed. So I'll just set up my standard passwords. Another thing, you can import your SSH keys, which is nice so that you can automatically have your SSH access by key authentication only, which is, a good security feature. But as you see, it's only been a couple minutes and we're already 8 of 9 steps. The total install of this thing is just amazingly fast. This is what I'm running on my in-home server, which runs LXD for containers. So any services I need to run at home, I run LXD, LXC containers. I stopped running Proxmox about a month ago because I kept having these hard crashes and I couldn't figure out what was causing it, and since I'm not paying for Proxmox, I couldn't really get support. So I'm gonna revisit Proxmox later down the road, but for now I'm running this 1804 LTS server with LXD containers. So basically what I'm setting up here is identical to what I got set up on my intranet here at home. Okay, so it's configuring everything, looks good, and it's done. Now we reboot. That was approximately 3 minutes. I have not cut the video except for the very first boot up screen. So maybe add 15 seconds for boot up. And we're booting up, first time. Everything looks really good here. No errors. Typical non-GUI startup screen. Probably a lot of you haven't seen a non-GUI startup screen if you've never installed a server. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. And let's go ahead and become root, and we'll go ahead and run an update. I think this image is fairly up to date, but we'll just make sure. So if you're wondering what the double ampersand is, that means it's like an if statement. So after this command runs, if it doesn't fail, run this command. It's one way to stack commands that are dependent. Okay, so there are a few updates, not much. So we'll go ahead and let this run. So far we're looking at under 5 minutes. Let's see, 4 minutes 25 seconds in, and boom, I have a full-blown Ubuntu server installed. Now granted, there's no services installed. I could install LAMP or whatever I want at this time. Let's run screen fetch. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, there we go. Ubuntu server 18.04 Bionic Beaver. HTOP is running. Again, this is in a virtual machine under VirtualBox. I do have this running on physical hardware here in my intranet, and it runs great. I haven't had any problems with it. Let's install LXD. Oh, look, it comes pre-installed with LXD. That's actually pretty cool. I did not expect that. And actually, I kind of remember that from my previous server. So we'll run LXD init and set that up really quick. This should go pretty fast. I usually just go with the defaults. With the exception of, depending on my server, I'll set the default storage pool much larger than what they want. But in this case, we'll just go with the default since this is running in a VM and I didn't really allocate that much space. So 15 gig is the default, that's fine. I do not know what an MAAS server is, so I leave that no. We're gonna bridge the network. If you need a DHCP assigned IP address, then you want to hit no on that, so that way it'll get a network IP address assigned from whatever your DHCP server is. But for this demo, I just went ahead and went yes. Boom, now we got LXC. No containers. So next we will install as me a LXC container. Okay, so we don't have any containers installed, and I want to install a Centos container. So I need to find out what Centos images they have currently. And all images are stored remotely. You can store images locally, but it's kind of pointless. Okay, so we can do Centos 6, Centos 6 i386, or Centos 7. So we'll go ahead and do Centos 7. LXC launch is the command you use to install an image. Centos/7. And it'll download the container and it'll set it up and configure it in our system. It's pretty fast. And it should be done any second now. There we go. I didn't give it a name, so it used the name of the distro as the container name, Elegant Koala. So we'll go ahead and log into it with the XCC command. We'll just log in as root with bash. And here we go. And it is Red Hat 7.5, which is, I believe, the latest. We'll go ahead and update it just to be sure. And it's all up to date. So the container is pretty recent. Let's make sure we really do have internet connectivity, and we do. Let's see what's running in top. That's a minimal container. So at this point we could install a LAMP stack if we want, or any services we want, and have a dedicated container for that service. So there it is, running in LXC. So I wanted to show you guys how easy it is to set up a server. The Ubuntu server LTS is actually a pretty decent install. It's very minimal. It doesn't seem to install any bloat or overhead. I was pleasantly surprised that it installed LXD as a part of its default packaging. I'm sure if you did a custom installer, you could probably say, no, you don't want that. But LXD and containers are just becoming really useful things to have. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, I run an Ubuntu server here with LXD, and I run everything on it. I have Minecraft servers for my sons, I have a web server for an intranet web page, I have a Git server for all my programming stuff, and it's nice having containers for the stuff. You can back them up, you can snapshot them, and this is the perfect environment for it. If you have old hardware laying around, you can install Ubuntu 18.4 and have an LXD server running to do whatever you want with. And this install took under 10 minutes total, and I'm up and running. I could have installed a web server just as quick. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you found it useful. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. I really appreciate it, and it really does help a lot with the channel. And I hope you have a great night. Thanks a lot, and take care. Bye-bye.